What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be talking about career. So career, unfortunately, is something that a lot of folks don't like talking about in real life, and a lot of folks don't know me in real life, but I actually hate talking about career in the stock market in real life. But it is what it is. And unfortunately, career is something that sort of defines your quality of life, freedom and income for a lot of people, because at the end of the day most people have to work for a living. And I'm not saying it defines you as a person, but it does sort of influence the quality of life that you're going to be living. And so in my case, I spent the last couple of years really focusing on career, um, not because I care about the status or moving up in life or something, right? Something that society says I have to be doing. It's really more about the flexibility and freedom and income. And so those three things basically dictated the path that I took. And obviously, like, my personality and the way I think also influenced, this path that I took. But yeah, so stick with me for the next 10 minutes or so, and I'm going to talk about what I do for a living. All right, so at the moment, I am a machine learning engineer for a large company in the Silicon Valley area. And I actually just got another offer to work at a startup in Santa Monica, California, which is in Southern California. And I left my previous company because it wasn't really the right culture fit, in my opinion, and I didn't enjoy working there very much for a lot of reasons. That's another thing that has to do with career too, is how much you enjoy your day to day. So I was looking for something a little bit different. And so, yeah, so right now I'm a machine learning engineer, and we're going to talk about what this actually is. So, you guys have probably heard of software engineers. So, if we take an example of, let's say, Instagram, so basically all the logic that handles what happens when you upload a picture, when you like a post, when you follow someone, when someone follows you, when you block someone, etc. So there's a team of software engineers that basically decides what happens based on certain actions that are taken. And so obviously there's different databases, there's different object stores on the cloud. Cloud computing is basically, you can think about it as like using someone else's servers. And so whole team of different software engineers. There's DevOps, there's backend engineering, front end engineering, full stack engineering, etc., cloud engineering. Basically, a full suite of these kinds of similar related roles to software engineering that basically make Instagram work. And it's a very tough job because obviously you need to know a lot of different components. You need to know how to write code. You need to know system design, etc. And so that's basically what a software engineer is. And the other sort of role that machine learning engineering is similar to a data scientist. Now, let's also take the example of Instagram. So, what a data scientist would do, for example, is come up with an algorithm that'll decide what you see on your news feed whenever you actually open your Instagram app. So it'll obviously show you the things that you may want to see more. And I think Instagram also has like a explore page, and so this data scientist would also come up with an algorithm that'll show you things that you may like, or you may want to see more of, because obviously the goal of data science at Instagram is to increase engagement, etc. Make you like the app a lot more and make you use the app a lot more. And so both of these teams obviously have different success metrics, but for the most part, if you combine both of these two, then you get what essentially is a machine learning engineer. So there's a key component to what a machine learning engineer is, and that is machine learning. Sometimes it's referred to as simply ML, and sometimes it's referred to as AI. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to talk about the differences between the two, but yeah, let's talk about what machine learning actually is. So this may be a controversial definition, but I think it's an okay definition. So machine learning is using some kind of algorithm or machine to basically learn features, parameters, weights, etc. about your data. Basically teaching an algorithm how to think about a particular data set. So let's talk about a simple example. Related to this Instagram problem of showing stuff that the user may want to see, um, there's also something called recommender systems. So, for example, if you're on Netflix and you don't know what you want to watch next, then there's a machine learning algorithm that will show you something that you may want to watch next. So, it's going to try to predict what you're actually going to like to see next. Another example, of course, is let's say if you buy something from Amazon, it's going to show you things that you may want to also buy, right? Because the goal of machine learning in some of these organizations is to basically increase engagement or increase sales, and basically make you use and depend on that product even more. Another really big and important area of machine learning lately is something called computer vision. And so, computer vision is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically teaching a computer how to see. And one of the most popular examples, deservedly so, is basically self driving cars. So, there's a reason why machine learning is excelling so much at this particular task. And there's actually two main reasons. So, the first reason is because the core architecture that learns computer vision algorithms is something called neural networks. So, fun fact, neural networks are actually loosely based off of how the human brain actually learns. And neural networks are especially interesting and powerful because they can form some insanely complex relationships between your input and your output. I'll talk about what that means in a second. And up until maybe not even too long ago, neural networks actually used to only exist in research or labs or academia because they were so complex to train that they weren't scalable for really, really large problems. But with the advent of GPUs, or cloud computing, I think those two played probably the biggest roles in making neural networks possible in the industry. We're able to create some really insane architectures and solve some really, really complex problems thanks to neural network architectures. Essentially, neural networks can learn almost anything if you have the right data. So, what do I mean by the right data? So, Tesla has gotten very popular for making a huge stride forward in self driving cars. The reason is because they have something called training data. So, obviously, all companies have training data if they're building their own machine learning architectures, but Tesla in particular has a ton of training data. So, what does training data actually mean? Training data is the data that you give your machine learning algorithm to learn from. You train this algorithm how to think about the world so that when you come across new examples, since the algorithm has already learned from previous examples, it can make decisions without having explicit rules to do so. So, said another way, machine learning is essentially software that writes itself. That's pretty cool, right? So let's go back to this self-driving car example. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to create a rules-based system, which is not machine learning related, but a set of rules that can tell the car what to do at different points in time? Like if you come across a stoplight, do this. Well, if you come across a stoplight and there's still cars coming on the other end, then do that. But that's just a couple examples of decisions that you might make. There's so many different parameters that you're going to have to think about when you're actually creating a self-driving car. So obviously it's a very difficult problem. The more scalable way to solve this problem is to teach an algorithm how to learn based off of what it sees in the actual world, based on the different sensors and cameras that a Tesla car has, and the right decisions that it should be making. And so, because there's people driving on the road using Teslas at any given point in time, like, there's like millions of people, right? You have millions of training examples, and what you have is essentially the right training data because you have the different environments that you're in and the decisions that should be taken based on that particular environment. And at this point, the algorithm learns for itself or it kind of writes itself. And so, bringing it back to machine learning engineering, you obviously need to know the machine learning component, which is how to actually build a model. And these are usually mathematical models. But the trick here is that these algorithms by themselves are not very useful if you don't know how to package them into a product or productionize them. And so that's where the engineering part comes in, is because engineering, in my own words, is basically building things. And so using machine learning to build products is essentially what machine learning engineering is, in my opinion. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the benefits of a career like this. And this includes any kind of software engineering or data related career. And I do like to separate those two. There's so many different career paths that have to do with software engineering or data that would overlap with these kinds of benefits. And to be honest, like I wasn't aware of a lot of these benefits growing up. And I did not have parents that told me, hey, you need to do this because this is what your life is going to be like. I kind of just followed whatever I thought was the right decision at any given point in time, and it ended up working out. And so that's actually why I'm making this video, is because I can relate to a lot of folks that may not know exactly what they want to do, or are kind of intimidated, because it's a really big decision to think about what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And the catch is that it doesn't even have to be for the rest of your life, but it's still a really big decision, right? And so um, basically, there's a lot that I learned about this world of tech that I really, really want to share. So, benefit number one is money. So, let me tell you guys a story. So, I started off as an intern on the data science team of a startup when I graduated from my undergrad. So, I got a bachelor's degree in computer science. And before I graduated, as I mentioned, I got an offer to work as an intern on the data science team of a startup. And immediately, as an intern, I was basically making more money than anyone in my family. So that was kind of eye opening for sure. And then 3 months later, I get a full time offer, and I end up getting like a 15% raise from an intern as a full time employee. I later found out that someone at this company made more than me with similar experience, so I negotiated for a higher offer, and I ended up getting paid like another 13% more after that. The second year after working there, I got about a 20% raise, and then the third year after working there, I got like a 15% raise. So after about 2.5 years of working there, I realized this wasn't really the place that I wanted to be at for other reasons. I mean, the culture was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed the people I worked with. But as far as the subject matter, I felt like I needed more data science skills, more machine learning skills, more software engineering skills, and hence that's why I became a machine learning engineer. Now, I wasn't sure what I get paid in my second job, but I actually, when they asked me what I thought I should make, I told them a number that was about 10% more than my previous role. And they ended up paying me about 40 to 45% more than my first job. And that was just completely eye opening. I was like, how are you? Like, I don't deserve that. But it was definitely very eye opening. And obviously, it's a really big corporation, so they have that kind of money to blow on good talent. And if you interview well, then they're more incentivized to pay you well. And then I mentioned that this second really large corporation I didn't really like the culture of, so I left after a year, and I'm going to be joining a startup in Santa Monica. And so I thought, I wouldn't be getting paid that much more. Obviously, like to go from Silicon Valley to Santa Monica, like there's obviously a little bit of a I wouldn't say culture shift, but let's say focus shift. But it turns out I interviewed well enough, and they were willing to pay whatever they wanted just to get me there. And so I ended up getting like another maybe like 15% raise or so. So I'm not saying this to brag, uh, but it's just insane how it really feels like when it rains, it pours when it comes to money. And yeah, at the moment next year, I should be just absolutely rolling in it. And so that's something that's pretty exciting as well. So the next thing is job security. So obviously you can get laid off at any time, especially if you're not performing too well. So obviously, make sure you work hard. But for the most part, it's relatively easy to get a new job if you don't like your current job, as long as you're good at interviewing. Now, I'm not going to say that interviewing is easy because it's stressful. I personally hate it, but it's a necessary evil to land a job that you actually want. And so it's worth it to really kind of get good at it and go through that grind and take it from me. I think it's worth it. So as far as job security goes, so especially even after undergrad program, as long as you did well in school and you can land an internship or two, then like job security should be relatively decent. And it gets even better like as you age. Like, what's funny is that, now that I have maybe like 3 to 4 years of experience after my undergraduate program, like I'm starting to get way more interest from like recruiters and other companies now. And so the cool thing is that this time around, when I was looking for a new job, I ended up getting three offers, and I literally had my pick. Like I had the choice to wait until there was something that I was actually excited about, because I didn't want to just leave my current role for something that I was like feeling okay about. So I actually, found something that I'm really excited about. So that's something that I really want to emphasize as well. So this last benefit is a little bit vague, but I'll tell you why it's vague. So flexibility is something that really matters a lot to me. Now, what the heck does that actually mean? So